On January 12th, 1966, on a Wednesday evening, ABC television aired a new television show that would become one of the most iconic, most beloved, and most culturally significant television series ever created. Batman premiered to modest expectations. The network executives were not sure if America wanted to watch a television series about a masked crime fighter in tights and cape. They were worried that the show might be too silly. But something unexpected happened. Within weeks, Batman became the biggest television phenomenon in America. It was not just a show for children. Adults loved it. The show was campy and ironic and funny, but it also had genuine action and suspense. The bright colors, the exaggerated camera angles when the villain's lair was shown, the earnest performances by the heroes contrasted with the over-the-top villains. All of it combined to create something that was unlike anything on television. For 3 seasons and 120 episodes, from January 1966 to March 1968, Batman aired on ABC. During those 3 years, it became a cultural phenomenon. It spawned a feature film. It spawned merchandise. It spawned a feature-length movie between the first and second seasons. It spawned multiple spin-offs. The show was everywhere. Batman was the most talked-about show in America. If you were not watching Batman, you were missing out on what everyone was talking about. But today, more than 50 years later, we must tell the tragic story of what happened to the cast members who made Batman possible. The show was iconic, but the people who brought those characters to life faced struggle, typecasting, illness, and death. This is the true story of what really happened to the Batman cast. And it is a story of brilliance and tragedy, of fame without financial reward, and of a man who became one of the most famous actors in television history, but struggled to escape the shadow of the character that made him famous. Batman, Adam West. William West Anderson was born on September 19th, 1928, in Walla Walla, Washington. He was a farmer's son. His mother, Audrey Spear, was a concert pianist and opera singer. Adam West grew up in a household that valued the arts and performance. From an early age, he knew that he wanted to be an actor. After high school, Adam West attended Whitman College. He was a college actor performing in theater productions. He was developing his craft. He was learning how to inhabit a character. He was becoming a serious actor who took his work seriously. After college, Adam West moved to Los Angeles to pursue an acting career. He worked as an extra in films. He had small roles in various television shows. He was doing the work of a struggling actor, trying to get his break, trying to be discovered. He appeared in numerous films and television shows throughout the 1950s and early 1960s. He was known for his intensity and his serious approach to acting. He was not a household name, but he was a working actor who was building a respectable career. Then, in 1966, Adam West was cast as Batman in a new television series. The producers of Batman were looking for an actor who could play the role with complete seriousness while the script and the scenarios around him were intentionally absurd. Batman needed to be earnest. Batman needed to be completely sincere. Batman needed to believe that he was a serious crime fighter, even as he said ridiculous lines about Batmobiles and bat signals and villains with outrageous names like Riddler and Penguin. Adam West was perfect for the role. He understood the assignment. He played Batman with absolute conviction. He never winked at the audience. He never acknowledged that the show was funny. He was completely earnest. And by being completely earnest in an absurd situation, he made the show brilliant. From the moment Batman premiered on January 12th, 1966, Adam West became an international star. He was recognized on the street. Children wanted to be Batman. Teenagers wanted to be Batman. Adults watched the show and loved it. The show was number 5 in the Nielsen ratings in its first season. It was watched by millions of people every week. But here is where the tragedy begins. After Batman ended in March 1968, Adam West discovered that he was completely typecast. He was Batman. That was all he could be. When he went in for auditions for other roles, casting directors could not see past the cape and cowl. They only saw Batman. Adam West found it nearly impossible to find work in dramatic roles. He struggled. He appeared in low-quality films. He made guest appearances on television shows. He was reduced to making appearances at carnivals and car shows dressed as Batman, signing autographs for fans who called him Batman, not Adam West. The irony is that Adam West was a serious actor who had studied his craft. He wanted to do serious dramatic work. He wanted to be a Laurence Olivier or a Richard Burton or any of the great actors of his generation. But the role that had made him famous had also imprisoned him. He could not escape the shadow of Batman. During the 1970s and 1980s, Adam West struggled. He and his family had to downsize. They left their home in Pacific Palisades, one of the most exclusive neighborhoods in Los Angeles, and moved to Ketchum, Idaho, a small town in the mountains. This was not the trajectory of a major star. This was the trajectory of an actor whose career had derailed. But Adam West also experienced depression during these years. The weight of being typecast, the difficulty of finding meaningful work, the loss of status and prestige, all of it took a toll on his mental health. He was a man who had been one of the most famous actors in the world, and now he was struggling to find work as an extra in small television productions. Then, something remarkable happened. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, Batman began to be reevaluated. Tim Burton released a new Batman film in 1989 starring Michael Keaton. The film was dark and serious, very different from the campy 1960s television show. But the success of the Burton film renewed interest in the original television series. The show began to be seen not as a camp classic, but as a genuine piece of television history. People began to appreciate what Adam West had done, not as a joke, but as a serious artistic achievement. Adam West experienced a renaissance. He was invited to voice Batman in animated films. He appeared on popular television shows like Family Guy, where he voiced a character named Adam West, the mayor of the show's fictional town. He was invited to conventions where he was celebrated and honored by fans. He was recognized by DC Comics in their 50th anniversary publication, 50, who made DC great. For the final decades of his life, Adam West made peace with the fact that Batman would define his legacy. Instead of resisting it, he embraced it. He became a beloved figure, a living symbol of an iconic era of television. He was interviewed extensively about his experience playing Batman. He wrote an autobiography called Back to the Batcave. He received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 2012. He returned to voice Batman one final time in 2016 for an animated film called Batman, Return of the Caped Crusaders. But the years of struggle had taken their toll. On June 9, 2017, Adam West died at his home in Los Angeles. He died after a short battle with leukemia. He was 88 years old. He was surrounded by his family when he died. He was survived by his wife Marcelle, 6 children, 5 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren. Adam West's life was marked by the tragedy of typecasting. He was one of the most famous actors in the world for 3 years. Then he spent 40 years struggling. Then, in his final decades, he finally found peace and acceptance. But he never fully recovered from the professional and financial damage that being typecast as Batman had done to his career. He had been one of the biggest stars in television, but he left in a state that was a fraction of what it should have been because he had spent so many years unable to work. Robin, Burt Ward. Burt John Gervis Jr. was born on July 6, 1945, in Los Angeles. He was a professional ice skater before he was a teenager. At age 2, he was listed in Strange magazine as a professional ice skater, performing in his father's traveling ice show. He had been performing since he was 2 years old. He was a natural performer. When he was 19 years old, Burt Ward was cast as Robin, the sidekick to Adam West Batman. Ward had no prior acting experience. He had been a performer his entire life, but he had never acted on camera before. The producers of Batman took a chance on him, and Burt Ward responded by giving a genuine, authentic performance. He was youthful and energetic. He had perfect timing. He understood the tone of the show. The chemistry between Adam West and Burt Ward was immediate and genuine. They worked together seamlessly. West's stern, serious portrayal of Batman was perfectly balanced by Ward's youthful, energetic portrayal of Robin. When the show premiered, both actors became international stars. But Burt Ward's experience was very different from Adam West's. After Batman ended, Burt Ward did not struggle with typecast the way Adam West did. Ward embraced being Robin. He did not resent the role or the association with the character. He appeared at conventions. He signed autographs. He did guest appearances. He seemed to genuinely enjoy being associated with Batman and Robin. Ward also had a successful career outside of Batman. He appeared in numerous television shows and films. He was a more visible presence in entertainment than Adam West was. He worked consistently. He was more successful at diversifying his career. Most importantly, Burt Ward remained healthy. As of 2026, Burt Ward is still alive at 80 years old. He is thriving. He has lived to see the reputation of the 1960s Batman series rehabilitated. He has seen the show go from being dismissed as camp kitsch to being recognized as a genuine work of art. He has seen himself and Adam West honored for their work. When Adam West died in 2017, Burt Ward mourned the loss of his friend and colleague. He said, "It wasn't supposed to happen. I knew Adam was not feeling well. He had gone to the hospital for some tests. But we made an appearance together at a signing just 3 weeks before his death, and he was in good spirits. He was walking so fast that I could barely keep up with him. The contrast between Adam West and Burt Ward is striking. Both played iconic roles. But Ward's willingness to embrace his association with Robin, combined with his more successful diversification of his career, allowed him to prosper while West struggled. Ward is a living symbol of the fact that the same role that destroyed one man's career enabled another man to thrive. Catwoman, Julie Newmar. Julie Newmar was born Helen Luella Coford on August 6, 1933. She was a Broadway star. She had performed on the stages of New York. She had won a Tony Award. She was a serious, accomplished performer. When she was cast as Catwoman on the Batman television series, Julie Newmar was already a known name in entertainment. She was not a struggling actress trying to get her break. She was an accomplished performer who was taking on an iconic television role. Julie Newmar transformed the role of Catwoman. She brought sensuality and humor and intelligence to the character. She made Catwoman not just a villain, but a complex character with her own motivations and her own charm. She understood the tone of the show. She played Catwoman with absolute conviction while the scenarios around her were absurd. The role of Catwoman made Julie Newmar a star. Millions of people knew her as Catwoman. But unlike Adam West, Julie Newmar did not struggle with typecasting. After Batman, she continued to work steadily. She appeared on numerous television shows. She appeared in films. She had a diverse career. She was not trapped by the role that had made her famous. Julie Newmar also brought real depth to her career. She became a real estate developer. She became an LGBTQ activist. She held patents for lingerie designs. She was a multidimensional woman who refused to be defined solely by one television role. When the original Batman series was being revived and celebrated in the 2010s, Julie Newmar returned to reprise her role in an animated film called Batman: Return of the Caped Crusaders. She was still active. She was still performing. As of 2026, Julie Newmar is still alive. She's in her early 90s. She has lived a long, full life. She has seen the reputation of the 1960s Batman series be rehabilitated and celebrated. She has seen herself honored for her work. The Penguin, Burgess Meredith. Burgess Meredith was a legendary character actor. He was born in 1907 and had been performing since the 1930s. He had appeared in dozens of films and television shows. He was 85 years old when he was cast as the Penguin on the Batman television series. Burgess Meredith brought incredible depth and danger to the role of the Penguin. He was manic and dangerous. He was genuinely threatening, even as he played a character who waddled around in a tuxedo and a top hat. He was a master of his craft. During filming, Burgess Meredith improvised the Penguin's distinctive quacking laugh. He did this to avoid coughing out loud from the smoke from cigarettes required for the role. The cigarette was a prop that the Penguin always held, but the smoke was affecting Meredith's breathing. So he improvised the quacking sound to mask his coughing. After Batman ended, Burgess Meredith continued to work. He had a long, distinguished career in film and television. He lived to be 94 years old. But on September 9th, 1994, Burgess Meredith died. He had lived long enough to see the 1960s Batman series gain a new appreciation and a new following. The Riddler, Frank Gorshin. Frank Gorshin was a talented actor and comedian. He was cast as the Riddler on the Batman television series. He understood the character. He made the Riddler funny and dangerous and complicated. Frank Gorshin was selected to play the Riddler partly because he had been a Batman fan since childhood. He understood the character from the comic books. He brought that knowledge and that passion to the role. After Batman, Frank Gorshin continued to work in film and television. He appeared on numerous shows. He had a respectable career, but he was never able to fully escape the shadow of the Riddler. Like many character actors on Batman, he was associated with the role for the rest of his life. Frank Gorshin died on July 17, 2005, at the age of 72. He had lived long enough to see the show be rehabilitated and celebrated, but he did not live to see the full extent of the 1960s Batman series' cultural rehabilitation and appreciation. The story of the Batman cast is a story of brilliance and tragedy. The show was one of the greatest television series ever created. It changed television. It changed popular culture. It made stars out of the people who performed in it, but also trapped them. Adam West was destroyed by his association with Batman. He spent decades unable to find meaningful work. Burt Ward was one of the few who truly prospered. The villain actors had varying degrees of success, but they were all defined by the roles they played on Batman. The show premiered in 1966. That was more than 60 years ago, but Batman remains iconic. It remains beloved. It remains one of the most watched and most celebrated television series ever created. The show has generated billions of dollars in profits over the decades through syndication, merchandise, films, and streaming. But Adam West was paid a flat fee for his work during the original 3 seasons. He never earned a penny from the billions of dollars that the show has generated since. He struggled financially because the industry had decided that he was Batman and Batman alone. The tragedy of Batman is not just a story about one show. It is a story about how television and entertainment can create and destroy people. It is a story about how fame can be a curse as much as a blessing. It is a story about how the people who create the most iconic moments in popular culture are often the least rewarded for their work. If you have watched the 1960s Batman television series, please share your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think of the show? Which cast member was your favorite? And what do you think about the tragedy of typecasting that so many of these actors experienced? Because remembering these stories and honoring the real people behind these iconic characters is how we keep their memory alive.